Hey guys, what's going on? Needs more drums here back at Drumbridge Farms, where we could see these absolutely picturesque canola fields that have been gracing the farm for the past few months. Today, though, it's time to get started with our summer canola harvest. We've got a lot to do, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, here we are, beginning of July. Absolutely beautiful sunny day. Could not ask for any better weather for harvesting. We have the combine all ready to go. Headers hooked up. We got it refueled, washed. Should be ready to just jump in and get started. We also have the Fendt hooked up to the grain trailer today, since this has a little bit more horsepower than the John Deere. And to be honest, we've been putting a lot of hours on the John Deere, so I thought it might be a good idea to use the Fendt a little bit today. And with the more realistic engine mod installed now, I wonder if we're going to be able to, if we're going to see the impact of that pulling a full grain trailer. So this tractor, like I said, this one has a little bit more horsepower, so hopefully that'll help with that. But speaking of mods, I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different today with the harvest, and really kind of focus on sort of like a little bit of a mod showcase, so to speak. So we're going to be seeing how, or well, if and or how more realistic impacts the harvest. So we'll see how the combine does, if it actually limits the performance of the combine compared to past harvests. And then we're also going to be testing out Autodrive a bit. So we're going to see how well Autodrive does in its ability to back a trailer. So in reality, it's how well my dad's ability will be to back the trailer, because we'll be in the combine today, and then we'll have him go back and forth with the Fendt there, back and forth to the grain silo. And I noticed, if we jump into the mini map here, I noticed that there's actually a waypoint for Autodrive in the farm silo. And I was curious. At first I thought, it was the loading point, but I forgot that there's also a silo loading point already. So I was like, oh, I wonder what that does. And it turns out that there is a path to that actually backs the trailer up into this garage here. We'll jump out here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And so as you can see, here's our garage, here's our tipping point for the silo, and there's actually an Autodrive path that backs the trailer into this garage, and then it'll dump the load into the silo, and then it'll, get back on the path on the road and continue to the field. So we're going to be testing that out today. I actually didn't know that was in this Autodrive template for this map. And shout out to the Autodrive guys for, yeah, that style was noisy, but shout out to the Autodrive guy for putting together these fantastic templates that I've used in basically all of my maps. The first thing that I do when I download a new map is go to YouTube, go to the Autodrive guy, and download whatever template he has for Autodrive for that map. And so far they've worked really, really well. It takes so long to create templates and paths in Autodrive, that having that, just being able to download that, right away and have the full Autodrive path for, every field, every sell point, it's unreal. So if you haven't done that, and if you're, using Autodrive and don't want to spend the time creating any waypoints for yourself, then I highly suggest going and checking out the Autodrive guy on YouTube. And he does a great job with getting everything put together. So let's go ahead and jump in the combine. And instead of, maybe a bunch of time lapses today, I'm actually gonna sort of take a step back and kind of walk you guys through the science behind all of this, right? So, setting up the Autodrive with the combine, and how that'll work in this video. So I think it's sometimes kind of cool to explore the technicalities behind, some of this, and sort of teach you guys some of the tricks of the trade here. So those we're going to be doing today. But two big fields of canola. I'm really excited for this. The nice thing about canola is that we don't have to worry about baling straw. So we're gonna just, gotta unfold first. We're gonna just, chop the remnants of the crop right back onto the field. Hopefully it'll provide a little bit extra organic material into the soil, so it should boost our nitrogen level a bit. But yeah, let's go ahead and just cut into the field here real quick. Let's just pause real fast, and we'll take a minute here to get our GPS set up. So we'll go to our steering assist. I typically like to do 3 headlands on the combine, maybe even 4, honestly. Nah, we'll stick with 3. 3 should be absolutely plenty. I feel like whenever I do 4, I end up just not needing that. So we'll go ahead and apply that. Now we have our GPS all set up. We'll do the headlands first, of course, and then we'll start going to the up and down roads. But before we get started with the harvest, I also wanted to point out something that I'll probably just do this in the next episode, but we ended up buying another field. I remember in the last episode I was telling you guys about I was going between 2 fields. So we ended up I was going between fields 9 and 11, and we ended up buying field 11 because I figured it was a little bit cheaper than field 9, and so we have a little bit more money in the bank to focus on. We needed to buy like seeds and fertilizer for the planting season this year, so I wanted to hold off on paying a little bit more for field 9 until after we get through kind of our summer harvest and some of our grass work and stuff to see how much money we have. But hopefully we can buy that pretty soon as well. As you can see, we did a couple of contracts off camera as well, so we got quite a bit more in the bank. I think we cultivated field 9. That was one of the contracts. We did some grass work on fields 23 and 27. So that boosted, that gave us, like, all in all, I think we made about what was it, like maybe 60,000 in contracts or so. So quite a bit of cash from that. Definitely worth the time. And then currently I wanted to point out in field 11, I actually opted to plant grass for now. So I do intend to turn this into a crop field this year, but we already had canola in the ground on the Vic and Firth fields here, fields 5 and 7. And in our snares field 11, I wanted to plant a cover crop. And I figure, grass technically is a cover crop because, we can actually get, we'll cultivate it. Well, we won't cultivate it. We have direct drills, so it'll be even better. But we get a harvest off of it. So we can, after we get done harvesting fields 5 and 7, we can harvest our throne toms, bells, sticks, and dairy fields, do our grass work, and also mow field 11, the snares field, to do grass work on that. So we'll get our whole summer, round of grass work will include this field. So we'll get a little bit extra there, and then we'll be able to plant it with wheat when we get around to it. So yeah, a lot to look forward to in the next planting season. So we'll do the grass work and the planting season probably in a future episode. Today we'll just focus on the harvest since we have our work cut out for us. Currently about, what do we have, 17 acres here and 19 acres here. So a couple of big fields to harvest. Let's go jump back into the combine and just get started here. So the first thing that we're going to do before we even get started with the combine is actually I'm going to jump back out of the combine. And to teach you kind of the science behind this, I'll go ahead and jump into the tractor here and get that set up with Autodrive with the combine, so you guys can see how we do that. And now the first thing that you want to do if you're using Autodrive is you want to set the waypoint to the field as I believe this is field 5. Yes. Okay. So we'll go. You can see we have these nice folders of fields. I just love this. Go to field 5, and we will set this to the combine mode. So unload combine. So we want to go field 5, and then we want to go to the arable farm, which is the farm that we're at right now, the kind of the home farm. We have the arable farm and the dairy farm, the only 2 farms on this map, in the the base version of the map, unless you've created your own farm build. But we'll set this to the farm silo. So what this will do is it'll run between field 5, which is the field to our left here that we're actually harvesting right there, and then it'll run when the trailer gets full. It'll drop it off at the farm silo. So I'm curious to see if the waypoint, it might need a little bit of an adjustment. I haven't tested it yet specifically for this trailer and tractor setup. So we'll see if the waypoint to back the trailer into the silo needs a little bit of an adjustment or not. But hopefully it'll be able to work itself out just fine. I guess we'll see once we get there. So all I have to do is set this to on, and I'm actually gonna decrease the speed here, and then what is this? The speed to follow the combine at? I don't know, I'll set that, maybe to this probably is just impacted by the speed of the combine, but we'll do 7 just to be safe. But yeah, so now you can see it says no harvester with same target found. But what I have to do now is jump into the combine. I don't know, it's going to do something goofy, I guess. I don't know where the waypoint for field 5 even is. Oh, it's not on that map. I wonder where it's at here. So it actually is Oh, it's there. Okay, perfect. So it's going to drive. It's going to park right up there by the fuel tank there. You can see. Yep. Stopped right there. So now what we do in the combine is all that we do is set the same field point as the tractor. So you can see that message went away. See if I do field 2, it says no driver, what same target available. Now if I select field 5, it'll link that to the tractor, and I don't have to do anything else here. I don't have to turn this on or anything. It's just when it gets a little bit, when we reach like 80%, which I think is what's in the Autodrive settings, we'll set that actually to 90. So this says that what the trailer needs to be filled to be able to dump it into the silo. So we'll set it at 90, just so, you know, if we fill it up or get close to it, we don't have to like wait for it to come back around, and then we'll empty like a partial grain tank, and it's just kind of like not worth the time. I think it's better to have this a bit lower. But yeah, once the combine reaches, here we go, we have it at 60. So when the combine reaches 60%, it will call the tractor, and the tractor will come and drive up next to the combine, and we'll start unloading our grain. And then we have active unloading set to yes, meaning that it will continue to drive alongside us while we are still harvesting, so we don't have to stop and unload. It'll actually just stay to our side. And yeah, we don't need, oh yeah, this is if we're running 2 tractors. Okay, so perfect. So we're not worried about that right now, but we'll just apply those settings, and now we will go ahead and get started with the harvest. So let's turn that on, set our field line or our GPS. We'll make sure that we stay connected around that turn, and we will put this in cruise control, 6 to 7 miles an hour. Seems to be running pretty well. As you can see, we have about an 86% yield on the crop right now on the top left. We'll make sure this is set here again as we come around this corner. I always got to pay attention to the corners. I did just see a mod that allows you to automatically connect to the, you know, different headland paths for the GPS, so I might inquire about downloading that. But we'll see. So let's go ahead and just go around this field until we reach 60%, and then we'll see what happens with Autodrive. All right, and so as you can see, we have reached 70%, and the tractor has not moved. And I forgot that I believe that pre-call unloader setting that we set to 60%, I believe that only applies if you're basically running the combine and a tractor just completely autonomously via autoload or Autodrive. So it's because we're in the combine, it's not going to trigger the call to the tractor. So in order to do that, we actually have to extend the pipe, and I believe this should call the tractor. This is like this is the way that the combine communicates to the tractor. Yep, see, so there you go. So now here comes Dad, i.e. Autodrive, coming towards us, and of course, you know, it'll drive through the crop, but ignore that. This is all just part of the game. So what you should do is come over here, and then you should turn around and get in position so that we can begin unloading the combine. We'll come around here, find, you know, kind of work out the best path. I know this could be a bit difficult and tedious sometimes. It'll go to like the point where we called, and then it'll like realize that we're not there. So now, yep. So now he's turning around. He says, "Oh no, the combine's not there. Let's see if we can let's see if we can find it." So it sometimes takes a bit for Autodrive to kind of get its bearings, but eventually it should make its way over here. Nah, you know, it's better than nothing. Doesn't beat, you know, like multiplayer or something, having somebody actually be able to drive the tractor, or, you know, me driving the tractor, for example. But sometimes what I'll do too is, one way to make this really easy is to actually just stop and then call the tractor, wait for it to get here, and then you continue harvesting. So what we'll do here is we'll just stop like right at the beginning of this next headland, and so he should be able to find us. And so sometimes it gets a bit weird. Autodrive isn't perfect. It's doing the best that it can, but it seems like it's finally found a good route to the combine. So we'll Wait for him to pull up here. Let's see if it noted. Yeah, see, it kind of goes to your last known position. So he should start kind of pulling up here. And I actually think I need to go in and change the speed. Yeah, that's okay. I see the problem. That's why it's going so slow. I changed that speed to 7 miles an hour for the tractor. I got to keep it kind of high so it'll pull up to us, and then he only slows down once we actually get side by side. So now it should just match our speed here. He's going to stop. He's going to get confused, and we're going to try to see if we can stay along. Oh, of course. That's right. It's really easy when you have like a long stretch. So like now, I think if we turn around and start on this next headland, this will give him plenty of time to come and find us. All right, and so I went in and I changed the speed of the tractor to get up to 20 miles an hour when heading to the combine. So we should see, you can see he's speeding up a bit, and then he'll match our speed once he gets next to us here. But yeah, once it gets a little bit easier, Autodrive seems to behave a bit better once you get done with the headlands because it has more room to kind of navigate. You'll see, like, once you get it started, it actually works pretty well. It just seems like getting it started sometimes takes a bit for it to figure out kind of where the combine is and sort of how to follow alongside it without crashing into anything. So, you know, it's pretty smart most of the time, but it's not perfect. But it does allow you to do, you know, what we're doing, which I think is awesome. You know, so we can be in the combine and leave the grain carting completely to Autodrive, which is super fun. I love driving the combine. But something that you'll notice too is we're only running at 4 miles an hour right now. So this is really cool with more realistic, because of it takes into account like the engine load. So because you can see we're running at a very high yield right now. If you look in the top left, we're running over 6 tons per hectare and about, you know, between 110 and 120% of, you know, the expected yield for this field. So what that means is that we're putting a lot more crop through the chopper, through the combine. So it's, you know, increasing the engine load. So we have to run at a lower speed because, you know, our engine or our combine is not, you know, super powerful compared to the yield that we have. So now you can see we sped up a bit. We dropped to 80%. So when I've noticed even just in this first headland, when we hit about 80%, you know, when we drop below the 100% mark, we pick up to about 5-6 miles an hour instead of, you know, the 4 that we've been running at, you know, when the yield is really high. So it's really cool that it adapts to that to give you sort of a more no pun intended, but a more realistic you know, way of harvesting. It reflects the power requirements for machinery. So I would highly recommend checking that mod out. It's not for everybody. If you want, you know, things to be really consistent and you want a little bit more guaranteed easier driving experience, maybe it's not for you. But for somebody like me who really kind of values like realism, especially in a series like this where we're trying to have a little bit of fun, but also just give a really, you know, as close as an authentic experience that we can. You know, put in some like realistic variables. It just makes the game more fun for me. I like it when games are a bit more realistic and have those, you know, different challenges, so to speak. So really cool. But yeah, tractor is currently sitting there. It doesn't need to come over here because, well, I guess maybe he will, but he doesn't need to because we're pretty empty in terms of the grain hopper. But he might come and follow us, so we can do this. You know, we can have the tractor just kind of ride alongside us for you know, kind of as much as we want here. Well, let's see what he does. Yeah, it looks like he's gonna come back, even though we're only at like 10%. The nice thing about canola is that it's not a high yielding crop in terms of volume, so we don't need to empty the grain cart or empty the combine into the grain cart constantly. It's not like we're harvesting, you know, wheat or barley where I feel like you're constantly full and you just have, you know, if you don't have a constant like the tractor's not constantly running alongside you, then, you know, you're constantly having to stop and unload. With this field, you know, with this crop, we can actually run a fair bit of time on our own and just kind of call the tractor as needed. So once we reach the end of this, I might have him follow us on this next headland because it's pretty straight and there's quite a bit of time to kind of get oriented and get the tractor in position. But once we get back on that top headland where there's, you know, those turns and stuff, we're just going to bring the pipe in and just wait until we get a little bit more full, like 50% or so, until we call the tractor again. So let's just see what happens. And I'm really curious, like I said, to see how it behaves when it has to drive to the silo and empty the trailer. So let's just wait until we get the trailer full, and then I'll bring you guys back in and we'll see how that accomplishes that task with Autodrive on. And all right, so you can see the trailer is at 99% now, so it'll be interesting to see what he does here. If he goes down the road here to the silo, we'll go ahead and jump over and see if that path is correct to where he could back in. I have a feeling that he's going to take the long way, find the nearest Autodrive path and like take a long way to the silo, because I tried to do this a little bit earlier with a different tractor just to see if it would, you know, follow the path. And he ended up taking a long drive around the farm. Alright, yeah, so you can see Dad's driven off with the trailer now. We'll keep an eye on the map here. You can see him kind of right there in the middle heading north. We should actually see him kind of pop up on the road here. I think what's going to happen is the path is set up to where he's got to be coming south. So he's going to go find a spot further up north to turn around, and then he'll come back down that road and make his way back to the silo. I think he might have to go all the way up to the store unless he finds a spot. It looks like, yeah, maybe he'll just pop into this the field 7 there, it looks like, and he'll turn around and make his way back down the road. Drive through the crop again, no worries. Thankfully, it doesn't do any damage with Autodrive on. Alright, so yeah, so there it goes, coming back down the road. Let's go ahead and jump over there and see if he can get that trailer back into the silo correctly now that he's heading in the right direction. Alright, so we're in the tractor here. Autodrive's doing all the work. Let's see if this path is set up correctly. Or, well, I guess if this, it probably depends on the setup too, but let's see if the trailer will fit. Alright, so he stops. A lot of magic happening here behind the scenes. And I'm gonna get, oh wow. No way. No way. Oh, check that out, guys. Check that out. Now the one thing is he going to be able to, okay, now he's got to get the bed all the way down. Perfect. That's exceptional. I'm happy about that. Now all he's got to do is drive back to the field waiting point here at field 5 by that little fuel tank. And then he'll be ready for us to call him again once we get the grain tank a little bit more full. We'll jump back in the combine and keep going with the harvest. But yeah, guys, so there you have it. Pretty, you know, like I've said a bunch of times already, Autodrive isn't perfect, but it really allows you to add that extra, you know, help through your farm. And it does work once you kind of get it dialed in, and you got to make sure, you know, you have the waypoint set up correctly, the pad set up correctly. And, you know, once you get your settings set up to your preference, it really can be a pretty useful tool. So there's a little example about, you know, what you can do to kind of automate your farm a bit more, a bit beyond the base game AI capabilities, you know, the base game helper and stuff. So hopefully that was a bit of a cool, you know, tutorial slash mod showcase slash insight into kind of what goes on behind the scenes, you know, here on the channel. And, you know, probably I'm sure a lot of the other farming simulator, you know, content creators use very similar methods to kind of put together some of the mechanics behind their videos. So, you know, this is one of the tricks of the trade. And if you're not familiar with Autodrive, I highly recommend that you go check it out. It's not too hard to set up. There are plenty of great tutorials out there in existence already for that can help you get started with some of the basics. Yeah, I'll admit it was pretty daunting, you know, when I first jumped into Farming Simulator, into the world of like courseplay and Autodrive. I was always afraid to download, you know, either of those mods because I said, this is just beyond me. I'm never going to understand it. There's just too much going on. But you could do a ton with just the basics. And once you get, not even at the expert level, but once you get just to the advanced level where you understand kind of how the mechanics work, it is amazing what they can do. And now don't get me wrong, I still have a lot to learn, especially when it comes to using sort of I know those two mods can be used together. I have not done that yet, where you can have like a tractor drive to and from a field, you know, drive to a field, do some work in that field, and then drive somewhere else. And I'm thinking more in the lines of like, let's say you have to you can collect bales with courseplay now. So let's say, you know, you go and have the tractor drive to collect bales and then to drop them off at a sell point. To actually begin that collection process, you have to have courseplay, but then to drive to the sell point, you have to have Autodrive. So you can actually use the two mods together. I'm sure it's not too complicated to figure out now that I've spent some time with these, but I just haven't, you know, done that yet. So there's still more for me to learn. And if you guys have any, you know, questions or additional advice or anything that you like to do with these mods, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. But yeah, overall, I think this will probably be the end of the episode. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a showcase and tutorial, you know, in one video. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, or this kind of video. At least I can do a few more of these, you know, in the future as we expand the farm and kind of rely more on, you know, some automation and some additional help, you know, via additional workers, or better yet, you know, Autodrive and courseplay. But yeah, just let me know if you want to see more stuff like this. I'd be happy to kind of walk you guys through some of the ways that you can implement things like these on your farms and game saves. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm just going to go ahead and get both of these fields harvested, and then I'll see you guys in the next episode where we will do some of the grass work for the summer. And I got to get your guys' opinion on something too in the next episode, so stay tuned for that. I'll have another poll up for you guys, another big question to ask you about the future of the farm. I guess it's not too crazy, but you know, just something that I considered, and maybe some ways we can better use some of the land around here. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and in the meantime, have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.